Hello everyone. I am Dipti from the team of GISA Council. I welcome you all to the webinar of How Good IT Projects Fail Auditing System Migration, ERP, and Core Application Implementations conducted by GISA Council. It is a not-for-profit organization committed to empowering individuals and organizations through specialized training and globally recognized certifications. Our mission is to strengthen the cybersecurity and IT governance ecosystem by building skilled professionals through programs such as ISA, CISA, CSIM, Series Prep Trainings, ISO 27001, CISSP training, DPO, and many more. Before we move ahead, we would like to share an exciting opportunity. If you are looking to gain CISA prep training, registrations are now open for our CISA training. It is a 40 hours of live weekend batch starting from 23rd of August. So in just more than 3 years since our establishment, GISA Council has proudly trained over 5,000 professionals across 70 plus countries, including participants from 170 plus global enterprises with more than 30 Fortune 500 companies among them. Now, it is my privilege to introduce Mr. Yagneshwara Iyer, a distinguished professional with over 30 plus years of experience in cybersecurity and IT governance. He holds certifications including CISA, CSIM, CDPSE, and has served in leadership roles such as CIO, CTO, and CISO. We look forward to gaining valuable insights from his vast expertise. All, please note that our team will share the CP certificate form approximately 10-15 minutes before the session concludes. It is mandatory to complete and submit this form in order to receive your CP certificate. Best wishes to all the participants. Sir, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Deepthi. Thank you. Hi, everyone. We're going to be quick about this today. Okay? Is this actually right? This slide title, what do you think? Do good IT projects fail? What do you think? Anyone has any opinion? Do you want to shove something into the chat? You want to put something? You want to talk to me?
So I believe like this is one of the things, the objective of the project. The organization may not be have right parameters for the project, and that is one of the result of like you find out the realities at the later stage of the project. And yes, sir, I'm thankful for your help. I passed my CISA.
Oh, congratulations! Well done, sir. Well done. Well done. Well done. Very, very happy for you. I hope this marks the beginning of new successes for you in your career, sir.
Thank you, sir.
And as you're on that too, sir, this is Quaison. I well passed my CISA exams.
And both of you were in my previous batches, weren't you?
Yes, I was in your batch last year, August.
Yeah, I was also in your batch last year.
Awesome. I hope those 40 hours helped you guys.
Yes, it is a lot.
Thank you very much. Very, very good. Very happy for you both, Syed and Quaison. Very nice. Good to hear. My only hope is that those 40 hours that we spent together gave you some insights into the exam and into the principles. I always focus on basic principles because irrespective of what we do, these principles don't change, right? And if you remember how we spoke about risk and the amount of time we spent understanding risk mitigation, and the cost of mitigating risk is exactly the principles we're going to talk about today. And if you have been in my CISA classes, the next batch, as Deepthi rightly said, starts on 23rd. Murphy's laws. One of the famous Murphy's laws is if it can go wrong, it will. Right? That was a law. If it can go wrong, it will. That's one of the law. It says. So action and inaction both have risks. Performing or executing IT projects has a risk. Not executing IT project also has a risk. You can say, listen, there is a risk of crossing the road. I won't cross the road, right? I might get run over by an idiot on the road. But if you don't cross the road, you won't reach your destination, right? So, not crossing the road, not performing that action has a risk. You may not implement IT, but there are risks if you don't implement IT. If your business doesn't change, if your processes don't change, if your use of technology doesn't change, somebody else will use newer technology, newer ways of doing it and get better than you, and will pose an existential threat to your business, to your career, right? The fact that all of you are here to learn, which means learning is for all of us as on an individual level, is a way of mitigating the risk of obsolescence for all of us. I hope that, does that make sense? And make sense. Learning, like you are here, learning is mitigating the risk of obsolescence. Does it guarantee that you will not be obsolete? No, it doesn't. Does it reduce the chances of your being obsolete? Yes, it does. Right. For now, can you please put your questions into the chat? I'll try and address them. I'll try and finish this. It's a small presentation as soon as I can, so that I can give you some time for questions. Okay. Now, we will have two lenses here for today's presentation, and I'll try and mix them up both from an implementation and from an audit perspective. Okay. So, projects fail because risks that were inherent in the execution of those projects were either not properly identified or not appropriately mitigated. Can all risks be completely eliminated? No. There is no life without risk. There is no business without risk. There is no business process without risk. But do you know what that risk is? Do you know what can go wrong? What can go wrong in an IT project? Broadly, there are three parts to it, right? If you look at the software development life cycle and you say it's not a software development life cycle, but system development life cycle, design, that is understand the needs and design, then implement, develop, test, and use, right? The three major blocks. In each of these blocks, things can go wrong. You can have the design wrong, right? You can understand the requirements incorrectly. Then the implementation may not match the design because you guys speak English. I speak in Tamil. Everything goes for a toss. Nobody understands anything, and this happens in software projects with business users expecting something, and the developers build something else because their understanding is different, right? Our prime minister goes to China. The Chinese interpreter says something. The Indian interpreter says something. Project is failed. That's exactly the same thing happens in IT projects, in software projects, where business users' expectations are not always translated correctly into what the software development teams do, right? So unmanaged risks keep compounding, right? In the design phase, in the understanding phase, in the development phase, in the testing phase, in the maintenance phase also. Even after a successful implementation, sometimes changes happen in an uncontrolled manner. When you change things without any control, without understanding the risk of every change, and you're not documented any change, you don't have a proper justification for the change, you haven't identified a benefit the business need for a change, then those changes also get out of hand. Changes also should be made in such a way that over the long term, a running piece of software system business process doesn't get fragmented in such a way that overall risk from that process increases. Okay. Now, these numbers are depending on who you ask. You go to the internet right now, all of us go and search, we'll all find different numbers. These are broad international numbers over the last 20, 30 years, right? That only 40% IT projects fully meet their objectives. Now, when I teach the CISA course, I talk of three broad success factors for any project, right? One is that the project should meet its promised deliverables, objectives, because otherwise it's of no use, within the given cost and within the given time constraint, right? These three are the success factors for any project. Now, 43% face delays. Now, delays happen due to a lot of reasons. We really can't put everything in one bucket and say, oh, the delays happen only because of this. Because in these three buckets that we spoke about, the understanding, design, development, and implementation and maintenance, three large buckets of any IT project, there are various things that can go wrong. sometimes money isn't there, right? The senior leadership doesn't give money. You did everything right, everything planning, but planning for money, resource allocation is also an important part. That is also a risk. That what if there is no money for that project? Then what you could have done? Maybe you could have started a smaller project, right? You could have found a smaller milestone. So like, if we implement this, we have something running, we have something useful where we can show the benefit to the business, and then we can use the benefits that we are deriving from the small implementation, then go to the next phase, then go to the next phase, then go to the next phase, then keep adding everything progressively instead of biting the whole thing up. That is one way of doing it, right? In the CISA course, we speak about stage-wise implementation, phase-wise implementation, right? How to cut over from one old system to the other. The old system could be a manual system. The old system could be already a technical system which you are improving in some way. Both are changes, right? They are both managing change. Now, that I've taken a few examples of some international companies and some Indian companies. People have had great successes, people have had great failures, right? The Hershey cases is quite a famous case. Peak season, they took their SAP implementation live and huge losses, right? A similar thing happened with Nike, and District of Columbia government apparently is still going through its third integrator for their ERP. There is a similar case with very large, I think $500 million deal with one of the United Nations organizations where they implemented SAP, and my belief is last 15 years the implementation is still not complete. Right now, where is what goes wrong here? These are things that we'll quickly look at 3-4 of those big reasons where IT projects fail and how auditors can contribute to ensuring or at least reducing the chances of these delays or failure, because delay is also a failure. Remember, the success factor of projects is it should meet its objectives, it should deliver whatever it was supposed to deliver within the time and the cost constraints that were originally envisaged. And we look at a few things why can happen. Again, reminder, 23rd August, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. India Standard Time, 40 hours review course. Again, focused on principles and focused on strategies for exam success. Okay. Again, example from India, the GN Industrial Development Authority in 2022 launched an ERP project, 68 crore. It functioned initially, but progressively slowed down. Officials went back to offline manual mode, and then they brought in another government organization to develop it. Now, root cause was bad planning. There was no vendor continuity. They should have thought about the implementation plan better, maybe broken down into smaller pieces so that the first vendor could implement one and then gone on to another one, but at least some base implementation should have succeeded, and then the vendor should have been changed. Handing over from one vendor to another is also not an easy task, right? Maybe they could have given their size, maybe they could have gone with 2 vendors. We don't know all the internal details. These are again culled from news sources. So what exactly went wrong, we don't know. But we do know that there was no transition plan from one vendor to another. When in the CISA course we speak about third-party services and third-party vendor management, one of the things I emphasize is that whenever you have a third party, that you're working with a third party who is performing a service for you, they are doing your organization's work. You always have to ensure that there are 2 scenarios that can happen. That third party may shut down also, right? So, ignoring that as a possibility, you may say, okay, we are switching from this vendor to another vendor. How do you plan the transition? Do you have all the knowledge? Do you have, as an organization, control over all the knowledge belongs to you, not to the vendor, right? And you should not get into a situation where your organization's knowledge actually now becomes the vendor's power over you. That should not happen, right? Or you might even bring that process back in house. In both cases, you have to keep maintaining control over that third-party vendors working. So this was missing in this case. Right? Parle biscuits is one example. Sorry, I'm not going to take any questions just now. Please hold. Let me just finish this quickly, and then I'll give you enough time. Okay. Now, a great example of how. Now, what IBM here did right was they refused what is called scope creep. Right? It is, I know a person who worked on this project, and he said we simply did not let anything get added to the scope. So they sat during the planning design phase, the top of the three blocks that I had mentioned, and they made as detailed a specification sheet as possible. Right? They saw what the old system was. They knew how they would implement the new system. Now remember, when you're changing systems, processes also can change. Somebody's mic is on. Please go on mute. Thank you. Please, everybody go on mute, please. Because you disturb everybody else by keeping your mic on, please. Thank you. Okay. Now, as a result of the detailed planning and absolute refusal to add anything to the scope, the company Palaji found reportedly a 30% reduction in total cost of ownership of the new system. They then also managed to enable AI-driven forecasting and analytics at scale, because the base data which got migrated from the old system was clear or neat, and data was complete. And now again, one of the important things I teach is that when you migrate data from one system to another, there's a big risk is that data may lose its meaning. And what do you mean by data will lose its meaning, right? If you take any object today, if you take a car, right, that car is complete if I know the car's registration number, it's good enough. Because in the motor vehicles department or somewhere, there will be a description that this particular registration number is this car model, year, manufacturer, owned by this one, contact number, those details will be there, right? But let's say you take if I say I have a laptop, but tells you nothing. If I say if I have a laptop with this serial number, even that is not good enough. I have to say I have a Dell laptop with this serial number, or I have an Apple laptop with this serial number. Now the brand and the serial number helps me to identify the laptop uniquely, right? It is possible, no? Randomly, it is possible that a laptop serial number is duplicate. The two manufacturers make a laptop with the same number. There is no agreement amongst laptop manufacturers that they'll have unique serial numbers, right? For example, invoices that you get from your vendors, right? You could get invoice number one from multiple vendors. How are they unique? So vendor code plus invoice number plus date, because that vendor may give you invoice number one every financial year. So you may have, for the last 5 years, you may have invoice number one from vendor A. So vendor A plus invoice number plus the invoice date becomes the unique identifier of one document out of possibly millions of vendor documents. Thank you. Right? So that now becomes complete data. So data, to retain its meaning, it needs to be complete and accurate. Once you do that, then you build a base for building more value-added services and value-added information sources for the business. Now, in any implementation, four big, I said I'll give you four big blocks where things can go wrong. One is the biggest thing is, this is how we have done this always. This is how we have always done this, right? Any process that continues, this is how we have always done it, is doomed to fail, right? Any process that is willing to change, identify risks, find vulnerabilities, and apply reasonable, appropriate controls is a process that will continue be strong, and that process can be one process or an organization or a state or a country. Anything that is resilient to change will be resilient to change, right? It'll stay strong throughout. The other way of looking at it is that be open to the fact that processes will need to be remodeled, re-architected, changed when systems change. To expect that the new system that you are implementing uh, should work exactly like the old system is a fallacy in most cases. In some cases, yes, you may already have the right way of doing it, and the current way of doing it may continue to be the right way to do it, the right process. In that case, it is fine. But in most cases, if you see, you implement new systems because the old systems had some shortcomings, right? Now, if you implement the same shortcomings in the new system, you carry those forward as well, then you are not gaining from the implementation of the new system, right? So please do not implement broken workflows with which lack appropriate controls in new systems. The other biggest thing, and I put this in the second, I would normally put number two as number one, because a lack of top leadership, right, to projects, their support, their involvement on a regular basis is one of the biggest failures, causes are one of the biggest causes for failures of implementation. Because if leaders are not involved in implementation, people who work on it 100% get lax. They lose their commitment. They see lack of oversight, and then mistakes, errors, omissions creep in. Okay, so it's very important that the so-called C-suite champion the execution and the implementation and the adoption of new habits, and not just continue old habits. Other thing that causes failures in IT project implementation is misaligned software, buying the wrong software, uh, trusting vendor demos and hype. The best example I can give you is that for more than 10 years, okay, uh, I would say about 10 years ago, maybe 10, 12 years ago, when cloud vendors started visiting me as a CIO, CTO, they started calling our systems legacy. It took me a few years to understand what they meant by legacy. They were being polite. They were calling my infrastructure old, outdated, archaic. But they used a polite word, sir. This is legacy workflows. You should move to the cloud. And typical salespeople, they didn't understand technology or business processes. They only knew, sir, you migrate your process to the cloud. Whether it would work on the cloud, whether we needed the cloud, it didn't matter to them. It took me over a decade of questioning myself, right? I started getting doubts. Am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the wrong thing by not moving to the cloud? Every time I would compare the costs would be 5x, 7x expensive over a period of 4 or 5 years. I said, that's not possible. I'm missing something. So I would ask them, what I said, I would keep asking, what am I doing wrong? Why am I not getting this right? If finally the realization dawned on me that my workloads, because in the businesses I worked in, we did not have spikes. We did not have daily spikes or weekly spikes or monthly reporting or sudden spikes, or like Black Friday sales, or like we have Independence Day sales happening on Amazon and Flipkart right now. We didn't have these spikes in our business. Our business was steady state. There would be no spikes. If a server ran at 80%, it would run at 80% 24/7. Suddenly it won't go for 10% to 90% suddenly. No. It was very steady. For those, then I realized, it took me over a decade to realize that, this is the problem. Because I have steady state workloads, the cloud doesn't make any sense to me. I already have people. I'll move 5 servers out of my 500. I will not save any money. Right? So thankfully, I did not fall for the hype. This is also one of the reasons why projects fail, is because IT people, tech people sometimes begin to doubt themselves by the hype that marketing creates. Okay. And then also marketing forces features that you don't need onto you. Hey, sir, you must have this AI, sir. It is brilliant. This new AI, but how do you use it? What will be the business benefit? What are the risks of that new feature? Is AI free of risks? No. Right? Do you know what is happening to the data you are putting into it? Do you know how accurate the data is? Right? That you're getting from it. Do you have any way of ensuring that whatever data you put into it, whatever information you are giving to the AI tool, is it used properly? Right? Who else can get access to that information? So all these questions, once you start asking these questions, connect that potential cost of that loss to your business benefit, then you will start taking better decisions. Okay. This shortcutting projects is typical. Projects where, especially in software development projects, and I have seen this myself. I'm a software developer myself. I continue to develop software for, many organizations even today. Um, where you see companies say, listen, let us not implement these controls. Let us not implement security because it takes time. And time means cost, right? And of course, time overruns and extra cost. Let's leave it. We look at do it in phase two, right? We listen, it's okay. We are sure you have tested it. Let us take it live. So skimping on testing, skimping on security, skimping on the right controls that are required at every point. In any process, we need controls in 3 points: input control, processing control, output control. What does it mean? When the data comes in, it should be correct, it should be complete, and it should be accurate. Whatever the processing that happens in the data, that should be complete, it should be correct and accurate. So if there is a payroll, if you're going to get your pay slip every month, you expect that pay slip is not off by even 1 rupee plus minus or $1 plus minus. If you get $1 more, you may not complain. But if you get 10 cents more or 10 paise more, you are going to ask question, right? So that processing accuracy is required. So why am I emphasizing this? Because it's possible to get a calculation wrong. Correct? It is possible. It's a human being who's writing the code. It is possible. Have you tested it? Have you tested extreme conditions? We'll speak about it now. When the output goes, is it okay that if your payslip goes to your worst enemy in your organization who sits in the across the floor? No, you don't want anyone to know your salary, right? You might want to know everybody else's, but you don't want anyone to know yours for sure, correct? So you don't want that the output control is not good enough that the salary slip can go to anyone. You want that control to be established properly, that your salary slip only comes to you. Your bank statement only comes to you, not to your neighbor. What are those? Those are kinds of output control. There are other output controls which we won't go into in this webinar. So all this everywhere, some projects tend to skip it because cost overruns, time overruns, and because we rather implement a new feature than test and secure existing ones. Right? Go live. When you say I'm ready to go live, the go live decision should not be based simply on the project team's optimism or enthusiasm to go live. Well, the project team wants to get rid of it, right? Because once it goes live, we just hand it over to the operations team. We are done. My job is done. I don't want to be bothered with it, right? That is what project teams typically tend to do. That is a bad idea, right? What we want to know is, we want to know, has everything been tested? When you encounter something like this, remember Iyer said three buckets: input control, processing controls, output controls. Have they been identified? Have they been built, designed correctly? Have they been implemented correctly? Have end users correctly tested it? Now, testing is also another big problem. End users are not told what to test. What should end users be given? End users should listen, please go and enter this invoice. Please enter these values. These should be your output. Now there you should also check border conditions. What are border conditions? For example, there is a quantity field. Can I enter -1? Can I enter 0? Can you have an zero quantity invoice? Invoice maybe not, right? Can you have a item in an invoice with negative rate? Maybe not, right? Those are checks. Those are border conditions you must check. I'll tell you an example. I developed a software many years ago. This is in, I think, early 90s, 91, 92, 1991, 1992, where I didn't check for border conditions in a few fields. Somebody just kept typing 9999999.99 in the amount field. My application crashed. He entered 15, so 12.2, 15 digits full of 14 digits of 9 and 15 digits including a decimal point. My application crashed. Border conditions were not tested. I had tested for 0. I had put a condition greater than 0. But I did not expect that somebody would simply fill that field with 12.9.12 nines or 2 nines. My application crashed. The impact on the business was not high, but it's something I should have known. But since then, I started checking this. Since then, I knew what my database could take, what value it could take, and I ensured that the user couldn't enter a value larger than that. I learned my lesson, sure. So all those things, right, need to be tested. I already mentioned to you how important it is to ensure that data moves from one old system to a new system. The old system could be a manual process. It could be an older software. You could be moving to a software running a software-based process for the first time, or you may be changing the software or the process, or it may be a re-engineered process. In either case, the data has to be the data will move from the old system to the new system, has to retain its meaning. Its meaning will come from the data being accurate and complete. Okay. Then, when you switch over to something, there is always a chance that in spite of all your testing, something goes wrong and you can't go live with a new system. You always should have a rollback plan. What is a rollback plan? Listen, we should be able to go back to whichever way we were working. At least it was working. We can't go to a non-working state. Right? If we find some errors, if we find something, we did everything right, but when we tried to switch live, we found some problems. It's okay. We'll roll back. We'll go back to the old way of working. We'll fix that problem. We'll fix another date. We'll test it again. We'll train the users. We'll come back again. We'll implement it. Right? That is a better strategy than struggling with it and trying to fix it at the last second without a rollback plan. Now we can't go back. That is never a good way of doing it. And in my CISA courses, I give an actual example of how I did it, where we did not have a rollback plan, where we did not even train users, right? We did not, we switched a 250, 300 user company to a brand new software overnight with zero training. Never do that. User training completion should be verified by the people who are in charge of switching over. Only then the go live decision should be made. Go live is not a technical decision. Okay, it is not a decision of the project team. Go live should be a decision of the end user teams who are affected by the system that is now going live, and the senior leadership who should be made aware of these right 5 points that I have written. Right, general controls, rollback plans, critical defects have been remediated and not deferred. Right, data conversion reconciled and signed off by whom? By end users. A user training completion is verified. Are users comfortable with the new system? Now, key frameworks, I just mentioned key frameworks here. We speak about these in my CISA classes also. Most of you would heard about this. COBIT is control objectives for IT. It's a very good comprehensive framework from ISACA, which lets you implement controls for IT risks or risks from technology. PMBOK is the Project Management Institute's book of knowledge for project management. Excellent guide. Tons of things I don't understand there. So one of these days, hopefully, I'll get to it, right? And CMMI is again an ISACA standard now. They bought CMMI a few years ago. That is a control maturity benchmarking model. Okay. Now we spoke about a few of the hurdles. Now there are 3 key non-IT problems that you face. The biggest one I have put in the center. To my mind, this is the biggest one, okay, which is the organizational resistance. I've mentioned one Levinstein model. He was a psychologist. He said The way to manage change is to unfreeze old habits, throw old habits away, right? Learn new habits and freeze them, make them part of your life, right? So unfreeze, learn, freeze was the model that this psychologist recommended. It's it's easy to write in a slide. It's easy for me to talk about it, but in practice, it's very difficult. So people need to be involved in the affected users need to be involved in the change. It should clearly be seen and be shown as being to their benefit and supporting their uh, objectives as well. Right then, the chances of that resistance coming in way of a successful implementation are reduced. Data hygiene, I have spoken about this. I will not go into it again. Now, how do you measure the success of any project? The If you don't incentivize employees to use newer systems, right, that leads to the resistance that I mentioned in the previous in the center point. The incentive to people to adopt changes has to come from the way that new system benefits them, that it will help them, right? We are going to make your life easier or better, or as the case may be, right? Or you have to do lesser, you will have more time to spare. You are now going to be a decision maker instead of an operator, because a certain part has now been operationalized, automated. You are being now asked for your opinion more than doing grunt work, right? So what are those incentives that drive people to adopt new systems will help you fight resistance to change. Also, measure performance of projects based on milestones. Have clear, sensible milestones. And what are the sensible milestones? When we started this day today, we spoke about a few of those um, uh, case studies, and we try to, at least I try to explore what could have caused those delays or those failures. One of them could be that maybe they should have broken it down into smaller pieces, smaller milestones, celebrated those milestones, right? Give credit to people. Listen, good job done. We reached this milestone. Now let's go ahead and do this. Have some, R&R kind of a process for every milestone, properly done. Not in the air, not just blowing people up like balloons with helium, but actual, real, delivered performance. Track those milestones correctly, and then that success feeds on success. Okay. Testing is a big part of any implementation. Any system that is not tested correctly increases its chances of failure when it is implemented. And there are various ways we go through tests. We may not even have a system to test before you start testing. How? Because as part of the design process itself, you can have what the slide calls conference room pilots. What are pilots? Pilots are, like a proof of concept or a demo or a talk through or discussion, right? We're running a pilot. That pilot may have some functioning systems or may not have any functioning systems. Now, can you simulate the working of the new system in a way where you can identify potential problems and provide for those risks or those vulnerabilities, and establish what will be the controls you will enable, so that the process, when it is actually implemented in the system as it's being designed, will run smoothly. So you don't have any system, you're just trying to simulate the process, how the system will work, and trying to guess what can go wrong, trying to understand, because this business process is yours, right? You know the business process. You're only mapping the business process, or a better business process, a more efficient process, into a system. So you should be able to identify those things that you can do to, one, mitigate the risks from various steps in that process, two, make that process better. Like I also do, for example, SOP audits, right? uh, in those SOP audits, I look at existing processes, I look at their documentation. Sometimes you will say, Ayur, can you please help us bring our SOP documentation up to date with our SOP, because our business has changed. Our SOP documentation has not kept pace. So, but I say, listen, I'm not going to do simply a comparison of your SOP, your process SOP. I am going to look at it from a perspective of, is your current process also, are there any gaps that we can fill? That those gaps could be, once many years ago, I think this was in 98, 99, maybe, yeah, around that time, or maybe 2000, we had a process that had 31 steps in it. 31 steps, right? A person came, not me, a person who was a very brilliant man, MBA from a very reputed institute. He came, he spent 2 months studying that process because he wanted to study every different possibility, every different scenario. He reduced it to 6 steps. 31 steps to 6 steps. I will never forget that man. Right? He presented us a 30-page report which nobody read also. Right? I read that report, and I still, that report is pretty much fresh in my head even after 25 years, right? More than quarter of a century later. I still remember the thoroughness with which that person studied every step, noted everything down, wrote that this step is being done because of this. These are the scenarios and conditions under which this step is required to be done. What is the benefit from this step? What are the risks of having that step, of not having that steps? And then he had a business impact analysis of each of those 31 steps, and he eliminated that and reduced to 6. Nobody read the report, but we adopted the change process. Okay. He had no system. Then we built a software to match that 6-step system. Right? I built that software, so I remember it. High volume stress test. Typically, when we develop software, when we build systems, we don't test them for expected volumes. Now you look at Amazon.in right now, they are going through I think, independence, because India's Independence Day is celebrated on 15th of August, for those of you who are not from India. So this week is a big week for sales. The next big week will probably be around October, November, which is India's festive season. It's a long festive season, a month-long festive season, a lot of sales. At this time, people are buying. Right now, if you think Amazon's infrastructure doesn't scale, if their site get crashing, what would happen to their sales? Their sales would also crash. Right? These are those periods when these retailers are looking to cash in on discounts, buying frenzy. People want to spend money. Your system has to scale. So you have to stress test the system for what, at least 25-30% more than your best estimate, so that you have some headroom also in case demand goes beyond what you had originally envisaged. The other thing people do is to test systems with test data. Customer name, test 123. Nobody understands it. People don't relate to it. If you ask a user to test a software with a customer name is test 123 or cust 123 or customer 123, they will not understand it. The data that they are used to test, the reports that they see, have to be as close to real production data as possible. Right? Which means the names, the numbers, the values can be different, right? So you may have to sanitize the data a little bit, so that, because testing environments are not as well controlled from a data leakage point of view as production systems are. Therefore, you can't simply take production data, copy it into the test system, and ask users to test. You could have big data leaks like that, right? So, but users don't understand cust1 or customer1. They want real names, right? The names that they are working with on a daily basis. Find a way of giving them sanitized data, where there is, even if the data is leaked, it has no impact on the business, but data that looks right, sounds right, feels right, and is relatable to by users who are testing it. You will have much better test results. Okay. Again, I'm not going through this again. The gold standard is a strong central program right? Which are paired with local champions who help implement systems across large distributed organizations, where they combine strategic oversight, which is centralized, with on ground accountability and identified responsibility to ensure that the strategic oversight, the strategic direction of the central team is properly implemented across large companies or companies like Cisco or Exxon Mobil. Wait, what happened? Am I there? You guys there, right? You can
Yes,
hear
sir,
me?
we are here only. Yes.
Okay, no, something happened. Something went blip on my computer, and I thought I got disconnected. Okay.
I
All right.
think that
So,
there is a net connectivity issue from your side. Actually, I am on Wi-Fi, proper Wi-Fi, but the screen you are
no,
sharing, the words are little blur on your side.
no, it's all perfect. I have a 300 Mbps connection here, not a problem.
Okay.
And I have backup. I have a deal with my neighbor also. In case my network goes down, I can ask them for their Wi-Fi password.
Yes. A great example for BCP.
Yes, and I have two other SIM cards. So I am my network is on Airtel. I have a
Okay.
Jio and a Vodafone SIM card. And there was one last CISA batch when all four went down.
So that is not a BCP. That is a high availability.
High availability, but everything went down. All
Yeah.
four went down because
It's a redundancy example.
yeah. So that
BCP
we can't help, right? That is a risk I had to accept. All
BCP
right. So
could
far, so
go.
good.
Yep.
So far, so good, everyone.
Absolutely, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, how do you build? Now, the word here is very important. Okay. A resilient implementation. Why have I used this word resilient implementation? Does anyone want to hazard a guess? Implementation is implementation. What is resilient about it? When you say something or somebody is resilient, what is it? What is a thought that comes to you?
Kindly unshare and share it again. It will resolve the issue. It is blur.
Every time when things are being asked to you, it provides the same result. That is resilience.
Sorry, can you please repeat yourself, sir? Is this better? Is the screen better now? I have unshared and shared again.
No.
It's okay. Not that good. Yeah, now.
Condition is still,
Yes.
now it is better,
Please,
sir.
Glenn.
Now it's
Yeah, now
better.
it's fine.
Awesome. So why resilient? The explanation for resilient is not on the slide, so you won't get it from there.
So we are not reading it.
Okay.
It should be
Resilient is
resilient.
because
It should be
yeah.
resilient
Go ahead, Sai.
against the resilience. That's mean it should be reliable against any failure could be happen.
Very good. Very good. Now,
So anytime,
resilient
but
is yeah. The
yeah,
resilient is an appreciation that things can go wrong in spite of the best of planning. And the ability to resume, restart, and with control makes for a resilient process. Something goes wrong, we are able to pick it up back again, fix it, and move on, right? It doesn't kill us, it doesn't stop work. That is a resilient process. Okay. Now, even if you have not identified all potential problems as part of your planning, a resilient process will mean that your governance structure ensures that you have a good incident response plan in place so that you are able to respond to that incident or activity or event, and you are able to put in process in place to manage it, control it, and go ahead. That is why I've used the word resilient here with great care. Okay. Always define requirements for any project from user needs, not from feature needs. Differentiate user needs from feature needs. Must have versus good to have. Always focus on the must haves first. Enforce ruthless, the word I've used is very important, ruthless scope control. Is this required for the business? You're asking me to add something. What is the benefit to the business? What is the downside if I don't add this? This was not there in the original spec. Why are you making me add it? I want justification. What is the impact on the project? Is the impact on the project larger than the impact of not having this scope? For every change request, ask this question. When you start asking this question for every change request, then your change management process becomes robust, and then your implementation is smoother because you will be making lesser change to your design spec. Okay. Always reserve 20-25% contingency specifically for costs that are routinely underestimated. Payroll, parallel runs, right, extended training, infrastructure upgrades, and post go live stabilizations are typical areas where you will have cost overruns, time overruns, and always have a contingency budget. Okay. Implementation is not an event. It's an ongoing process of optimization. Once the project team hands over to the operations team, that is not the end of the project. That starts the more important part of the project, because after that, changes mean changing to production. Now, changes to production are riskier than changes while the things are being designed, developed, tested. Post-implementation changes have more risk. Many organizations, and I'll give you the example. There's a fantastic organization who implemented Oracle Fusion. Oracle, it wasn't called Fusion then, very old. I'm talking of 15 years ago. Okay, they implemented Oracle, one of the best implementations of Oracle. What they did, they picked the best worker, I think top -1 or top -2 from every operational department, moved them out, created a new department, ERP department. They implemented the ERP for the organization. Brilliant ERP implementation. But what they did, post-implementation, they customized it so much, right, that when I went to audit that place 15 years ago, maybe, they were already 2 versions old in the ERP. Coincidentally, I found someone working on a presentation with the name of that company at one of the ISACA seminars in Delhi about 2 or 3 months ago, maybe 4 months ago. Then I asked him, "Are you working for this company?" He says, "Yeah, we are helping them with some tech upgrades and stuff." I said, "They were using this ERP. Are they still?" So, "How do you know?" I said, "I audited them 10-15 years ago." They said, "Yeah, they're still on the same version." 15 years ago, there were 3 versions. So now you imagine because they couldn't upgrade their ERP because they had customized it so much. There were other infrastructure issues as well, but that level of customization that they did stopped them from upgrading. What is the lesson here? It is good to have that process work exactly like you want it, but always ask the question, what is the trade-off? There is a trade-off in everything. There is a trade-off in using existing processes or following existing processes in these systems, because most of these large ERPs, for example, or software or repeated software, which have been used around the world, they come with learnings and best practices from around the world, which might be much more beneficial to your organization in the long run to adopt and implement than trying to mimic your old processes. This is how we have always done it, is the worst place to start for any new implementation. Does that make sense? That's all I have for you. Any questions? I'm open now.
Yes, sir. How can we know exactly the efficiency of the implementation? Why we in the phase of the implementation, still we did not yet put it on production. How can we know the efficiency while we're auditing the process of implementation?
So you see, if it is not implemented, if you're still in design, testing, development, testing mode, then the test results will show you where you are. Then you should rely on test results. And who is testing? Users. Users should test. And how will they test? Obviously, I'm expecting that the users who are testing the software are people who will be using the software, who are the business users. Do they have the right instructions to test? Do they have the right infrastructure to test? What is their test report? Who is monitoring the results of those tests? Are critical failures from those tests being monitored? Are they being addressed? If you remember in one slide, I said, have critical faults been rectified, right? That was one of the questions to ask before go live. Yes, you will be getting these slides. Just look at those 5 points, right, that I had mentioned there. One of the points was, have critical failures or critical faults been identified and corrected? That was the first thing, one of the things I'd asked. That is a good way to understand if you are ready for go live. Make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Anyone else? All right then. I will wish you good evening, good day. Yes.
Please, some of us joined very, very late. So is there any way we can get the slides to catch up?
Yes, you will get the slides. You'll have to ask GISA Council, please.
And where would they be shared at? Because some of you are in the group, we didn't even get the link to even, unless someone asks in the group before we can get the link.
I am sorry, but you have GISA Council's email address. Please write to them. I know they share all these slides. I will be sharing this with them. I can't upload it here, unfortunately. Otherwise, I would have done it right now.
Okay.
I don't think I can upload files here. Otherwise, I would be very happy to.
Okay.
Yeah,
Are you in the WhatsApp group? We have. Are you in the WhatsApp group?
No, I'm not in any WhatsApp group for this session. Not.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, I am.
Sir, you told us about, as an audit, you need to make sure about the risk assessment, right? So in this case, as an audit, how can I minimize the probability of missing threats could be happen or could be encountered? As an audit, I cannot cover all the risk threats that's on the implementation or any software development or system development life cycle phase.
You may not know everything, but you can know if the project team itself is doing their job of understanding what the what potential pitfalls are there in the process. Yes, you are not. You have to audit if the project team is identifying and managing risks. Make sense?
Yeah.
Along that process, you might say, but listen, you have done these 10 things. Is there a chance that there is a 11th thing also applicable or a 12th thing also applicable? There you start your questioning from. And there is where your value as an auditor comes, because remember when we in the class, I used one word. The biggest quality of an auditor is skepticism. So you first check, has the project team taken into account? Have they considered that things can go wrong? Okay, what are the things you have provided for? Please show me a list. Okay, these are the things you think can go wrong. Okay, what are you doing to mitigate them? What is the result of these controls? What will happen? What are the chances that this thing can happen? Have the users accepted these controls? Please show me some documentation. Then if you're doing this, then can this also go wrong? That's it. You see 5 questions, you ask a 6th one. From there, your cascade of questioning starts, and you would have found 50 other problems.
Yes. Thank you.
All right then.
Sir, it was a nice webinar, sir. Sir, I just wanted to have one more suggestion, sir. Could you just add on in your next classes regarding some AI tools which cybersecurity personnel or auditors, as auditors, we can use?
We'll try and do a small webinar on that.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you so much.
Not at all. All right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. Good evening. Good day.